Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. So a lot of interesting things went down in this episode. Obviously, you have Liz kind of investigating things further. It's actually kind of interesting because when she dropped Max's name with Kyle, like I thought it was kind of all over. Like I knew she'd probably be trying to deceive Max and trying to find everything out, but I didn't expect her to kind of go about things the way she did, because interestingly enough for her, like her current hypothesis is that Max killed Rosa, but she's not going to act upon it until she gets the information she needs, because she is a scientist. She's going to go about it from a very scientific point of view, because she knows how she's always felt about Max, how she still somewhat feels about Max, and so she's not going to let that cloud, like her, potentially liking and loving him, that she's not going to let that interfere with everything. So she tests out Max, to kind of see what ends up happening. Can his powers be used, to kill someone, which we saw last episode is highly capable of doing that. But, Max even ends up hurting her a little bit. She's like, no, it's okay, just don't touch me. And it's like that knee-jerk reaction like that. It's kind of like, I think that speaks volumes, kind of, because she, like, even though she's still trying to, prove, she's trying to see where things stand, there's still that part of her that thinks, he did do it. But the thing is, and she ends up talking about this with Kyle, because Kyle's like, why don't you just tell someone, let the authorities handle this or something? And it's like, for him, it's like, for her, it's like, I can't, because the fact of the matter is, like, she doesn't have a motive yet. Like, what would be Max's reason? Because this can't be like, oh, he's just some alien that wants to get, like, why Rosa specifically, and why hasn't he done it to anyone else? Why is she the only one? So that begs that question, like, what happened there? I mean, and it also speaks volumes about Kyle, too, because Kyle hasn't gone to anyone about this either. I guess because because Liz asked him not to, because he knows how important this is to find out the truth about Rosa, because Liz thought so long about Rosa being one way and potentially finding out maybe there was more to the story than that. And so I guess he wants to respect that, so he's giving her this chance, because I think even himself isn't sure, because he ends up, breaking into his mom's office, which, side note, I didn't realize the sheriff was his mom. I think in my head, too, I was also thinking Max was a sheriff. It's like, no, Max is a deputy, much like Cam is. But I didn't realize that his mom was the sheriff and everything, because she kept a lot of his dad's notes, but she kind of hid him away because she didn't want him to read into it, because it's like, oh, your dad wasn't in the right mind state. It was kind of bad towards the end, so it's like, I want you to have good memories. But he sneaks in there, Max catches him, and it's kind of interesting because, like, Isabel ended up telling Max about the whole Kyle and Liz situation. It's like, yeah, they hooked up literally while your handprint was still on her chest, and you could tell how much that hurt Max and everything. And when it was all said and done, like, obviously Max and Kyle kind of had a little bit of confrontation, but Max kind of walks away a little bit, and he's like, oh, Kyle's like, oh, so this is all about Liz, isn't it? And he gets pissed, but the thing is, he's like, like, Max is like, you want me to hit you, don't you? And he's like, yeah, but that wouldn't be very lawful of you, would it? But the thing is, like, the fact is Max is trying to handle things like that, I think speaks volumes too about his situation, about him not, because I think that set it forward into Kyle's mind as well, of like, maybe Max isn't the bad guy in this situation. Maybe, who knows, like, even he is unsure, and I think that's what pushes him not to say anything too on that level as well, because if he believes the danger is strong enough, I think he'd ignore what Liz had said and would tell someone. But, like, I think it's a good chunk of it is he's adhering to her wishes, but I think it's also because there's a part of him that isn't 100% sure that Max is guilty either, so. Because it's kind of interesting, because this whole situation spirals to, like, Isabel being like, the fact of the matter is Max is letting her experiment on, letting Liz experiment on him and treating him like a lab rat, and he doesn't even realize what's going on. He's just letting her do it, because Max's mind, it's like, stay out of my life. It's like, just because you got your own issues in your own life, you're trying to, like, divert from it and kind of, like, focus on my situation. She's like, but your problems are my problem. You are my problem. Because it's interesting. I guess because they grew up like siblings, so that's why she has such a strong bond to Max. Like, it seems like she has a strong bond to Michael, but not nearly to the extent that she does for Max. I guess because Max has always kind of worn his heart on his sleeve, that she's a very, very overprotective sister. So because they grew up in the same household and everything, so obviously that led to her being closer to him. I bet you on some level it's probably got to bother Michael a little bit too, because it's almost like everything revolves around Max. What about me? I don't think Isabel even takes as much of an interest in his life as she does with Max's, and I'm sure on some level that's got bothered him, especially because he already feels much like an outsider already because he grew up in the system. He was never with them, he's always felt a little different from them anyway, and I'm sure that just adds to it. But that might be something we see kind of accumulate and kind of eventually kind of rise to the surface as the series progresses, but we'll see. But Isabel is planning to wipe Liz's mind, and even Michael being like, why you want to do it now but you didn't want to do it before? For her, it's like, do you know how hard it is diving into someone's psyche? But then Michael's like, the fact of the matter is, I think it's because you're scared. You're scared that you're going to lose Max, that Liz might actually take him away. And I think later on she kind of realizes that. I mean, for one, it's an interesting thing because she actually went into Liz's mind, and every time she went to Liz's mind, she kept seeing like Rosa. And I also like how her ability works, because this is our first time really getting to see it. Basically everything else gets stripped away, and you see like her just kind of like all the people disappear. The only people there are Liz and Isabel. It's almost like, it's like I guess, kind of like on a mental plane, like you're seeing their two consciousnesses like kind of collide, essentially. Not really collide, but come together in that regard. And she kept seeing Rosa. Now my thought process is, because I'm assuming and chalking it up to be the fact is, when she jumps into someone's psyche like that, she gets to the heart of it. She's basically seeing someone's true essence, their heart, their mind at its most rawest form. And so on her mind is Rosa, because she's got all this stuff in her head about Rosa, trying to find out who Rosa was, the sister she didn't really know that well, also finding out the truth about what happened to her. So Rosa's in the forefront, and and she's like, I thought we were friends. And I wonder, is it just because Isabel had I didn't know she had a connection with Rosa like that. So maybe she did, maybe she didn't. That's definitely going to be interesting to kind of dive into that. But it's like, is it like her own situation tapping into something inside of Liz that kind of kept doing that? Or was it just because, like I said, that was in the forefront of her mind? And it's also like, why won't you leave? It's because of Max. Like, Isabel kind of took that as like, oh, it's because she's got just as strong feelings about Max, which it is. But the thing is, like, humans are very complicated. Her feelings for Max, I think Isabel is able to tap into your psyche so much to the point she can tap into stuff that you're not even really sure, or maybe stuff that you're not even aware of. So like how strongly she feels about Max, obviously she's putting that aside, but she doesn't realize just how strong those feelings are. That's why she's giving him, the benefit of the doubt. She's doing all this investigation. She's acting a little cold towards him, but I think that's also because she's trying to keep herself as objective. Even though it seems like she might have her mind made up, I don't think she has, because she's conflicted in the situation. And what's interesting, though, is, I don't know, it was enough to keep Isabel from not going forward, because she's like, I saw Rosa, and it's like, what about Rosa? Because even Michael kind of had a little, like there's something there, the truth behind what happened to Rosa, because it's not just Max that's connected to them, they are too, because he went to the point of telling Isabel in the first episode. It's like, we can't ever let Liz know the truth about what happened to Rosa, so I'm curious about that, because once again, it's like, yeah, she's messed with Liz's memories before. That was kind of my thought process, that it has something to do with that, but I'm still thinking that, but we'll see in the long run. So, but now she's having second thoughts about it, and actually Noah, her SO, made her kind of realize like it's okay that look, because she's starting to blame herself, because she's like, Max is in love. He's always been in love, and the fact of the matter is, he's been unhappy this entire time potentially, and I didn't realize it. It's like, I'm supposed to be the one who knows him so well, but the fact of the matter is, I couldn't see how sad and unhappy he was, and it's like my fault, because I guess she's the one that pushed Isabel, using her mind, because she was the one that, she tried to use her powers to tell Isabel to leave town. I'm assuming that's what happened before. And so it's like, I drove away the one person that Max loves. It's like that person, the person you have that connection with, that feeling that can't really be replicated in any other fashion. And like, for her, for such a long time, Max was that person for her. And it's like, now she feels him slipping away. That's why she's holding on so tight. She's like, I'm a little codependent, I know, but Noah doesn't judge her. He's like, I understand. He's like, I want to be that person for you. It's like a little distance doesn't mean that you're losing him, you know? So that in itself was kind of a very fascinating, you know, discussion all on its own. You had, you know, Liz, you know, hanging out with Maria in this episode, going to all of Rosa's hidden spots, you know, finding stuff. There was that one note that was kind of like, "You're not alone," and it was by Ophiuchus. I had assumed, much like I think Liz eventually did, that person was Max, but it might not be. Like, it might be connected to a murder, like, or maybe there was a part of me that's like, because of that whole Isabel thing, like her and being like, Rosa being like, "Oh, we were supposed to be friends." Part of me wonders, do you think Isabel told Rosa the truth about what they are? Is that why Isabel's so keen on not letting Max kind of do the same thing? Because it's like, oh, I made that mistake before, and you know, because whatever it is that went down with Rosa, it seems like Max knows. So if that was the case, like, wouldn't he call, you know, Isabel out for being a hypocrite if that were the case? So it's got to be something else. Because whatever it was, like, Rosa told Max to stay away from Isabel, and she was kind of high and stuff like that. But part of me wonders, is like, do you think that was part of Isabel's plan? Like, why she even talks about it as her fault? Because it's like, maybe she, you know, not just sending Isabel away, like, I'm not just sending Liz away, sorry. That Liz didn't just send Isabel away, that she kind of pushed, you know, Rosa to say that potentially? I don't know. That was just kind of sitting there in my head just now. Maybe? I have no idea. It's a complicated thing, because it's like, it almost seemed like that came out of nowhere. Just like, I don't know. We don't know how many interactions Rosa and Max really had, because I was kind of starting to think like, oh, maybe there was something between them or something, but it's like, no, that's not the case at all. I still think Max tried to, whatever the circumstances were, I think Max found out about Isabel's situation and he tried to save her and he couldn't. Once again, I think that's why he saved Liz, because he loves her, but also because like, he couldn't save someone that she loved. You know, I was actually kind of surprised when she outright asked Max about it, because, I mean, she's like, "Did you kill my sister?" Because for her, it's like, she was like, "You were having an affair with my sister." Like, it's like, I don't even care about, you know, whatever your high school situation was. I want to know, did you kill my sister or not? And for him, it's like, after everything we've been through, you honestly think I could have done it? It's like, I could never kill someone that you loved. You know, I love you, you know, why would I do something like that? You know, so he's like, I've always loved you. I've loved you back then. I still love you now. I've loved you as much in the 10 years you were away, every second you were away, you know, because he ended up talking about the note, and the note was like it wasn't about some kiss. It was about the fact is he had hot sauce on his lips back then, and no one really told him. And that same day, like you know, I guess, like, you know, the interaction between him and Liz, and it's like at that moment, like that point, there was a blackout at their school, and it was like, it's because of him, just because dealing with like, oh, holy crap, I guess he was that flustered at everything. But I mean, that in itself can speaks volumes. But whatever it is, this secret is bothering Max to the point that he ended up later on, he's trying to call Michael, trying to call Isabel, but no one's answering, and he releases his power, and it ends up like blacking out the entire town, and he's far away from it. And the moment he releases his power, it's like, holy crap. For one, you know, it just back-to-back episodes showing me, like, because before I was like, oh, Michael's the only one that has the most offensive ability. It's like, no, Max is not to be underestimated of what he's capable of, you know, and that kind of plays into it too, of like, oh, so I guess it isn't out of the question that he potentially could have killed Rosa, but I still don't think so. But there's definitely something there, and we're just not sure what it is. I mean, the sad thing is, Liz kind of feels that way about Max, but for her, it's like she still doesn't trust him, because it's just like, she knows that, you know, he lied to her about Rosa. I'm sure for him, it's like, he even says it, it's like, because Rosa was high and messed up that night when she confronted him like that, and for him, he was scared, I guess, because it's like, I could have told somebody, like your dad would, you know, could have went to the store, went to your dad nearby. And I think for him, he feels responsible, because it's like, he didn't stop Rosa that night, didn't tell anyone about her to try and reach out to help her, and she went off and did what she did. And so that's why he feels responsible, why he didn't want Liz to know the truth, because it's like, I could have potentially stopped your sister from doing what she did, but I didn't, you know, I just drove away, you know. I think that's where his mindset is, but obviously there is potentially more to the story. I don't know. It's kind of interesting because it's all kind of coincides also with like Kyle, because he learned from his mom that Jesse Maines him, because he kept being like, oh yeah, me and your dad, like, oh, this fight we believed in, even going as far as kind of threatening Kyle. It's like, oh yeah, the government, we kind of basically telling Kyle he doesn't really have much of a choice, or he's going to come after him, make life in this small town for him and the people he cares about hard. But also, Kyle ends up learning that, like, oh yeah, Jesse and his dad weren't friends. The fact of the matter is Jesse, because of the whole Rosa situation, Kyle's dad almost lost the election, like, mayor, I think that was what it was, for mayor of Roswell. And Jesse had backed some other person. And it's like, Jesse doesn't have friends, he just has soldiers. So this is more so his fight than it is, Kyle's dad's, but it's still his. Because Kyle's kind of like, I'm not going to be caught up in this anymore. The fact of the matter is, you try to use my dad to kind of draw me into this. This isn't my fight. The fact of the matter is, for him, it's like, my family came into this country because they believed in the American dream. And we also a big component of the justice system. I mean, it's proof of that because his mom being, sheriff and everything. But it's so for him, it's like, innocent until proven guilty. It's actually kind of interesting about his mom's situation. I thought it was kind of interesting. She doesn't actually like Liz's family because for her, it's like her family were poor, and the fact of the matter is they struggled to get to the U.S. legally. And then, for that American dream, because they believed in America that much, and to have, a family like Liz is here legally, which even calls like, that makes you sound very bigoted, Mom. And she's like, and it shows me how naive you are, kind of like almost being like, you're so caught up in how you feel about her, you don't realize just kind of how they essentially being like, which is kind of messed up, that almost be like, because of people, illegals like them, it kind of makes it harder for us, those of us who worked our asses off, who come from families who worked their asses off to get us here legally, so it was just kind of an interesting conversation. I was like, just that she would have that perspective like that. Not that, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I mean, you don't have to agree with it, but it was just kind of a fascinating thing of being like, I mean, because even shocked, Kyle that his mom had that perspective. Like, I just thought that whole conversation was kind of interesting. But nevertheless, Mans did bring up the whole fact is that just because someone, that's what they always say, neighbors will always tell you that about a terrorist, that like, oh, they seem like they were a good person, that they were capable of this, and hard, it's bouncing back and forth between him talking to Kyle about that, and then eventually, Max shutting down power in the entire city, showing you just how powerful he is, like, that there is something there. Like, we still don't even know what's really up with him, like, where all this anger and stuff is coming from. It's all surfacing because he saved Liz, and is it all of that, or is there something more to it? Because again, we don't know. Kyle gave him all those files from his dad, like all the things his dad had written down, kind of like his alien index and stuff like that, so Mans could kind of do whatever he wants to with him. It's kind of interesting because this all ties into like, a little bit into the Alex and Michael situation, which is interesting because, it's like, oh, Isabel was showing up, and Michael's like, is it such a bad thing that Isabel knows? And he's like, yeah, it is. And it's like, why? Like, it seems like not Kyle. I'm all over the place for names. I do apologize. Like I said, I always like let my mouth talk before my brain thinks. I know that's stupid. Nevertheless, it seems like Alex is ashamed of his situation. Part of me wonders, does his dad know? Because his dad was kind of like, you're a soldier. You should kind of present yourself like one. The fact of the matter is hanging out with, Michael, kind of like he gets arrested all the time, he's drunk and all this blah 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 blah, kind of being a bad influence and stuff like that. It's like it's going to rub off on you in the sense of like his bad reputation, you hang around him. But it's like, because Alex straight up is like, are you ashamed of me? He's like, you're a decorated soldier and stuff like that, a Purple Heart. But part of me wonders, is it because he knows that Alex is gay, and that that's what conversation is stemming from, potentially. Because it's interesting, because even Alex is kind of like, the moment his dad said that, then he sees, Michael kind of doing some of his side hustle, like selling copper wire, which I don't think is that big of a deal, but I guess, it's an illegal thing, and, Alex is a stickler for the rules, but Michael's kind of like, the fact of the matter is, you're just looking for another excuse to kind of walk away, and he's like, and you just keep giving me another reason. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like back and forth, because it's like it's almost like Michael pushes him away, and while Alex also pushes him away. So it's just kind of like this attraction, yet, this push and pull that they kind of have with their whole relationship. And it's just kind of a fascinating situation to see where that ends up going and what that kind of means, for them. A very interesting episode. I'm interested to see kind of where all this ends up, taking us, like what's really going on through Max's mind, especially because, like, the fact is that he did this probably has to be the biggest example of that happening. So it's like, whatever's going inside of him isn't getting better, it's getting worse, and this situation, him doing that, people might kind of, the people who know, that being, Liz and Kyle, might look at this as kind of a sign of like, yeah, there's more to Max than meets the eye, and this might push Maines to kind of decide to push forward, because like I said, it almost seems like, because Kyle brought up a good point too, it's like they've been here for decades and they haven't done anything. You're acting like this is some imminent attack. They've literally been here for decades, so they're very, very slow at this whole thing. But that was kind of the whole thing of like, maybe it's just Maines giving, because he doesn't know them. He knows about the alien from before. I mean, to be fair, we don't know. Maybe he's lying about that. But maybe that first alien was a terrible person and did some terrible stuff and hurt people, because it's like it's on a foreign land. It doesn't know anything. So it looks at these people as, hostiles, while they look at it as potentially hostile, and that just a miscommunication, different world type of situation led to, things playing out the way he did. And that basically, unbeknownst to him, he's treating, Max, Isabel, and Michael the same way, when in actuality, they're not like that. They just want to live their lives, Each one of them has something here on Earth that they want, they strive for, they care about, So, I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting thing. Like I said, I'm very interested to see where all this takes us into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.